microphones, so move up this way so you can hear us.
Do you want me to go get them?
Everyone in the back.
You want me to go get them?
I want them to come forward.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Sebastian. Sure, you've seen me at the delegate meetings. What I have here is our proposed 2019 budget. And I just wanted to kind of have a preface where we can talk about what some of the columns are and as we make changes and notes and how it all affects. So in this first column, this is our estimated January to December 2018 estimated income and expenses for that particular year. We have the approved 2018 budget. We have the estimated budget versus the actual. And then we have the proposed 2019 budget. As far as the estimates go for January through December 2018, those numbers are going to change as we move forward just because the year is still going on. The approved 2018 budget will remain the same, and the proposed 2019 budget will change as we make changes and add in different notes. If you have any questions or you have a particular line item that you want to go into deeper or you have questions that I don't have here, let me know. Just like last year, what I'll do is I'll put your question in the notes section. I'll get it answered, and when we have our next meeting, we'll go ahead and get that answered. No question is a bad question, and the more questions you have, the better, because we only have so many meetings. So, you know, if you have a question, put them out there 3. So put them out there now so that way we can get them answered before the next meeting. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's begin. As of right now, for the proposed 2019 budget, the association dues would be $7.4 million. That number changes as we change the numbers. For the other types of income, we went with $90,000 for the interest, which is what we think we're going to earn from the CDs and doing the CD-ARS account. We have advertising revenue of $102,000, so we keep that the same as the expense for advertising, so it's a wash. We have investigation fees, which is a new line item that we're adding. That too will also have an expense of $150,000, so it's a wash. Installation luncheon net, that's the one where we sell tickets. We have it at about $2,000. Rental income has gone up substantially. We're up to $36,000 for 2019, and that's because we're collecting 2 separate rents. Gate passes, we did net of about $18,600. You know, that number is just a guesstimate right now. We're trying to incorporate it with some of the costs that we have. So that number may need to change before the next meeting. And laundry income, $18,000, which is a little bit less than what we have as the estimated, but it's just to keep it, you know, in line. If not as many people are using it, or, you know, there's some sort of issue, at least we have some room there to maneuver. Do I have any questions about the income side? All right, let's go ahead and let's move down to expenses. So again, this column here is what we think we're actually going to spend in 2018, and this final column is the proposed 2019 budget. Why that's important? So propane for the laundry. I estimate we're going to spend $6,150 in propane, so I put the budget line item at $6,200. Repairs for the laundry, we've only spent $1,200 in repairs, or think we're going to spend $1,200 repairs, but we leave us some room. The previous year was $5,000. I reduced it to $4,000. Termite control, we had a $600 line item on there. I removed that and moved it down to general maintenance because when we have the termite people come, I break it down per location, but it just needed to be one line item. I don't think we need a budget that has 100 line items. So I moved that down. Transportation. So we were given a proposal from transportation. Our 2018 budget is a little higher than our 2019, but that's based on their estimates. Same thing with the fuel for the bus. That went from 70,000 to 86,000, and that's based on their estimates. Based on our estimates of what we think that we were going to spend. The excursions, I believe, are in this $896,000 number. Yes. So they are. So we're reducing the $24,000 line item to zero for excursions, and it's now in our contract for transportation. Bus stop maintenance, I took that $6,000 that we had from before, and I moved that down.
Where did he move it down?
Because I believe the bus stop maintenance is now the responsibility of the transportation company. Okay, so that line item has been removed. Before I move on to security, did anyone have any questions about laundry or transportation? Yes.
You're saying that the bus stop maintenance, right?
Yes.
When you say bus stop maintenance, what are you referring to? And the bus company is going to take care of it, you said. Am I correct in what you just said?
Yes.
Actually, what you're looking at is the bus stop seats are something that Daniel puts in.
The what?
The bus stop seats where people sit and wait for a bus.
Oh, you're not talking about bus stop. You're talking about buses
Well,
maintenance.
we do have a budget included in that number to take care of, I think it's almost $25,000 to put in 4 places where the bus can pull into the grass area in an area so they're off the street so that when they're picking people up or letting them off, they're not blocking traffic.
Okay, so the
We have 4
$25,000
we have
is
4
included
spots.
in the
It's included in that
$896.
figure, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What entrails of GOAT lead you to believe that propane is going to escalate
Yeah.
to that
Why
degree?
should it?
Do you mean the propane for the laundry or for the
No.
fuel bus?
Fuel
Well,
bus.
effectively both, but the bus, that's a pretty big jump you've got.
Sure is.
So,
One of the things you have to understand is some of the buses that are now excursion buses are going to be the company that provides us bus service. We pay their propane. When we hire a bus for $600, we don't pay propane. So we're taking on an additional bill in order to bring the cost down of the excursion bus to using the bus company's own buses. That means we're
But
going
we're
to
paying for it anyway.
we're paying for propane,
Yeah.
and it's still less than the $600 a bus.
and for
And
the
that's the
fuel,
reason for it. So the fuel's added, where the cost of the $600 is reduced to $470.
for the fuel, for the first 6 months, I had $43,000 in expense. So, we just doubled that, just so we could get through the end of the year. So that's where we have the estimate for the 86,000. And then the contract excursions, that's in the 896.
Right.
So the excursions.
Any more questions about laundry or transportation? Okay, we'll move on to security. Okay, so for the security contract, you can see the 2018 and the 2019 budget line items are exactly the same. What that number is, we're still calculating. We think by year's end, we'll have spent somewhere in the range of $760,000 for security. I have the number broken down of what we have spent through the first 6 months. For the first 6 months, and it comes out to be roughly around 360 or so, 360, 380. So even by doubling that number, we're still within our budgetary line item, but that one will drill down to, and we'll have a more concrete number.
And one of the reasons for that is I haven't heard yet from the company. They were supposed to send us a proposal, which we could use for the budget. So that's the.
Okay.
So
Okay,
I should have it there tomorrow.
Okay, so we'll put in there need proposal, so we'll go ahead and get that. The miscellaneous expense, we still have that one in there, although, you know, as a CPA, nothing is miscellaneous. Everything has a category. However, you know, sundry and miscellaneous is, I'm not really buying bags of chips for everyone, so we have that line item still in there, but based after the proposal, we'll talk about taking that out. Investigations. The 104, oh, yes.
Is there not something in the contract about a delta every year?
Yes, it's a 2% increase they can provide, but I wanted it broken down because you remember we split off part of it to go to WPRF.
Right.
So I wanted in writing what their number is gonna be, and when I get that, that's the number that'll be in there. This is early stage presentation.
For investigations, so you can see the estimate through year end is 114,000. That number is pulled completely from thin air. It's just taking the first 6 months and doubling it. If the investigations, because we bill for it every time, it should equal out to whatever we collect in the investigations. You know, we should always be ahead. So what I did is I put 150.
The prospective buyer or renter pays
Yeah, right.
the investigation
Yes,
fee.
so what I wanted to just reiterate, on the very top in the income item, we had investigations, 150,000 of money in.
Come on, okay.
And then on here, we have the line item of the 150,000 going out.
Which presumes a wash.
Now, we could make money on it, or there could be a surplus from there, but if everyone is from another country, let's say, we lose. We're stuck by statute of limitation, or statute of $100, and if it costs us $3,000 to do an investigation, you know, there's nothing we can do about that.
Just to add to that, the cost of a foreign investigation has gone up in the past 2 years. We are receiving more foreign investigation requests than we have in the past, and we've also probably getting more requests for legal opinion because of that.
Really? I can't.
So,
Both of which are ours to pay for.
I'm going to suggest that we write a research paper on these incredible increased costs and the fact that 718 has capped at $100,
Yeah.
to my knowledge, for 2 decades, and we ought to go to Tallahassee. Because that is unconscionable.
So we've complained every year, every time that they're in session, that the fees are too low and they don't represent. They did give us the slight increase on the estoppels for having to do the rush estoppels and stop everyone that they're doing. However, on the investigations, they limit the association to 100. However, they don't limit management companies as of right now. So I don't have to be out anything when I run the investigations for another association. So I think that's a good idea, and I think showing them associations of this size, 7,854 reasons to want that number to be different, because if everyone came in, you know, cost more than we collect, it would be an issue. Okay, so investigations at 150,000 is a wash. We'll get a proposal for the 831 for the security contract, and then we'll revisit that at the next meeting. Irrigation. So one of the major changes we had last year was with landscape and irrigation. We had this line item for landscape, and then we had a separate line item for irrigation. And when we started to ask questions and go through those line items, it was pretty much not one and the same, but they followed the the same process. It was the same companies. They're mixing part landscape, part irrigation together. So what I suggested was that we revise the line item for irrigation expense and make it irrigation and landscape. So we have both the irrigation and landscape. We estimate we're going to spend 303. Our budget was 313, and our proposed is 322,000, which includes a 3% increase. We do not have the proposals yet, right, from them for the irrigation or landscape contract for next year.
We know
Sure.
what our monthly charges will be, absolutely.
Okay.
We're in a contract. What I don't know are large projects that might come up over the next year.
Oh, I have some of that. I have some of that elsewhere.
I have one
Okay.
in mind that I can't discuss to me, but I think we should probably put a little bit of reserve for a large irrigation project that might come up.
Okay, so I have some of that in another line item, and so when we get down to there, we'll talk about that. Okay, so for landscape and irrigation, I have a 3% increase from last year. Our budget was pretty close in line. We think we're gonna spend 303,000. The budget was 313,000. So we still have a little bit of a cushion there, and then we have another line item for additional items that we may need. So we'll confirm that the number is going to be roughly the same or with an increase.
It does the first half of the year.
First half.
Yeah.
Second
And the other half, it goes down.
Second half, everybody's cable bill drops close to $7 a month per unit. That
Yeah.
number cannot be right.
Okay.
All right, hold on. No one jump down my throat yet.
All right.
So, in a perfect world, I would know that to a T. I didn't, so I took my number, did the 3% and carried it over like I did for my 17-18. So let's go ahead and let's revise this number now before we go too far. So let's go ahead and, so the first part of the year has the 3% increase, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
First 6 months.
Okay, so let's go ahead and let's put that in. Okay, so it's gonna be,
Second half, it'll be $29 a month per unit.
That's the reason for the meeting, to catch these little nips. Because again, this is preliminary.
Should have brought.
Super rate.
it's the Apple numbers. Uh, Okay, and then we're going to add, what does the number go down to?
$29 a month per unit.
Does that include everything?
That's the basic cable.
Basic
But I mean, the
Compared-
taxes, the,
Oh, no. I
Okay,
add
so let's go ahead.
15% for that.
how much did it go down from how much did it go down when we switched to Atlantic Broadband? Like, what was it before?
That's what we're talking
No,
about.
no, no, is there a percentage?
Well, what is it? That you're looking at for the first 6 months, because we don't know what that number is.
Well, I have the first 6 months is going to be 1/2 of
Comcast,
half of
right,
this
that's
times the 3%
That's
increase.
right,
And then
then
what
the
is
second
that?
half.
And what's the
Yes,
number?
Oh,
The $29 a month, add 15% in government beat dipping. No, 14.9.
So the first half of the year will be 1.874 million. Now we just have to figure out what the second part of the year will be.
Just, it's easy enough.
It's 28 plus,
$29.
29 plus.
Yes, yes.
29 plus 15%.
Yeah.
That's no.
So do we know what that number is?
29 plus 15% of 29.
Oh, 33, 35 is 29.
43, 35.
He just gave a figure.
35, not possible.
No, 33.35. So it's going to be 33.35 divided by 2 times 7,000.
33, 35 is per month.
Oh yeah, but it's divided by 2 because it's only 6 months.
33, 35 is the
Oh
monthly
yeah,
fee.
you're right. Sorry.
Times 6 will give you what the fees are.
Right.
6. And then how many homes? 7,000.
78.54.
Exactly.
Okay, so that means 2.
Oh, that ain't
We're at 7.
So it's going from almost $40 down to
So
33
3.446 million.
that's the combined total.
Combined total is 3.446 million.
Yeah. It's almost 40 compared to 33.
Okay. Any questions about cable? Okay. Ambulance. Ambulance contract has been the same for the last few years that I can remember. We have not received a proposal for an increase.
No.
So as of right now, we're leaving the number exactly the same. Do we want to request a proposal or just assume that they're going to keep it the same?
I think someone in the conversation with her recently found contract automatically renews.
Yeah, unless we change it.
In what date does it automatically renew?
Look at the contract when it was
April,
first
May?
signed. It's back to 2012. It's been repeatedly
So it's like
going
April,
on.
it's like April and May.
Yeah, right now you're paying $1.45, is it?
Yes.
And I don't even know if it's worth $1.45 yet.
But that has to be something the delegates make a decision.
So we have to go with the 145.
the
That's
moment.
what you should go with right
Yes.
now.
Okay.
1.454.
I got a comment on that, as far as the ambulance service here goes. I don't think that they are providing the services that they should, and that they have said that they would. I know that twice I've had Bella take an ambulance ride, and 1 out of the 2 times, they weren't even available. Well, we still got charged for it.
Excuse me. Could I ask a question? I'm a newbie here, sort of.
Can I
Exactly what
finish-
is
can I-
ambulance contract?
Can I finish his question first?
Yeah, because that will tie into your question as well.
I think what you have to understand is there's been some changes to what they're being covered by Medicare to pay for. So as long as Medicare is not reimbursing them, we're going to do that. But there's also the issue that if they can't get to you in time, and there's a proof that the call was made by you, and they couldn't get there for an hour, they've been paying the cost of the Red Wagons overage since they should have been able to get there to take it.
We've already paid it.
I appreciate that, but had you brought it to us,
We did.
It was brought to me,
It was brought.
and
if
it was
they won't
brought
do
that
it,
no
if-
call was made.
that's the point that
Which
you're
is
making.
bull.
I
Well,
can only tell you what the
we
recording
can't
said.
argue yes or no because, but in many instances, they have paid it.
We had the people in the Red Wagon tell us they're not available, we're taking you in.
Now, that doesn't mean they made the call,
Who told you that?
because where we had,
The people at the Red Wagon, in the Red Wagon.
That- It's up to the, let me just explain something. We're going to have a meeting here in October with AMR, because since I took it over, I was appalled to see
Barbara.
what we're getting.
Could you get up and face everybody so they can hear you?
Well, I don't want to go into a lengthy thing on AMR, because
Okay.
we're doing budget, but the point is, the AMR budget that you're paying $1.45 is not one that you had 5 years ago. This one, it's up to the, I'm going to give a quick synopsis. The fire truck comes. They determine whether AMR comes or not, if it's life-threatening or not. They are the ones that call AMR, not us, okay? Not you. That doesn't work. And if you go from the hospital to rehab, only if it requires an ambulance will they pay for it. I mean, I think this has to be looked into. That's why I'm making a town hall meeting, so you can all ask AMR exactly what you're getting for your money.
it
I
may
think you
wind
should
up-
know,
and it-
because it's misconception here in the village.
Well, if the
They
fire
want-
truck takes you, then they send you a bill, right?
And you pay the $205
So
that's
why
left.
can't I call AMR and say,
Because
I
they
need a
can't-
trip to the VA hospital?
because they
I
can't.
Because
agree
that's
with-
where I want to
They
go.
can't
They
do it
should
that,
come to
sir, they can't do it that way.
Why
It
not?
has to be the Red Wagon
No,
that
no,
makes the
I know what he's
evaluation,
talking.
and then
If I
they
need to
call.
go to the VA and I don't want to deal with the Red Wagon or anything, I should be able to call AMR
No,
because
it's
I'm
not-
paying
it's
for
not
it.
covered.
Take me to the VA.
It's not covered.
Then I get a prescription from the doctor to have
It's
them
not
pick me up.
covered.
Right.
Huh?
It's not covered.
Then what good is it?
Right, now you got a point. Now you got a point.
That's why we're gonna discuss this more in detail, because it's
Sir,
not something
are
we
you
should
talking about
do.
emergency situation?
Yeah.
Like you got chest pain or something? Or whatever? If it's an emergency situation, the Red Wagon's gonna take you,
Right.
all right?
And the only way,
If
the
it's
only
a
way,
non-emergency, you can always call DAV and they will come pick you up for free.
David,
This is a budget session, but I
That's
will
why they
point
don't
out
do it.
something else that Barbara researched. 700 calls, 400 transports. Is this a service we need at all at $11,000
A month.
And
A
that's
month.
going to be put on the table very shortly.
and it's likely not gonna be approved, because they've taken away so many things they
They
used to
took
do.
away cabulance in big black letters.
And you won't
Very thing
transfer.
The thing you're saying.
you're touching on, right? You know, I'm in rehab for a month, and the ambulance take me home. Used to be on a doctor's script, yes, no more. Really?
Yes.
No more.
So since Medicare has been cutting back on what they're covering them for, they're doing less. If that's the case, why don't we just drop them? And that's a conversation we're gonna have when there's a meeting, but this is not the place.
Yeah, there's gonna be a meeting in October, it'll be well advertised.
And this is just getting into some of the things we really wanna look at. I'm sorry, Sebastian, go ahead.
So as of right now, we're gonna leave the ambulance one alone. And we'll revisit that if something changes at one of the meetings, but as of right now, there's no increase.
They may need an ambulance.
True, true, you did ask the
Yes.
question.
Okay, general administration.
Question.
This is the big, oh, yes.
I had a question, I was waiting, but you went right to ambulance, about the irrigation and landscape maintenance.
Yes.
And it says includes 3% increase. I presume that the landscaping maintenance is referring to our contract that we have
Yes.
with Seacrest. And I'm presuming the irrigation expense is the contract we have with Shabbat? What
Well,
is
it's
the
not
irrigation
really-
expense?
It's not really a contract. Any of the minor repairs.
No, we have a contract for.
Well, I wanted just I
Okay,
wanted to say something. In the irrigation expense, I also put any time that they do little repairs. So.
but you have a 3% increase. How could you do that? That's not a contract, that's just when something breaks, we call and they fix it.
I understand, and whatever you want to put in that box, I fully support you as long as we can document it. Where I got the two numbers, I took what we had and put a 3% increase just so we have a little bit of room for as things break. I know one of them's a contract and that one may or may not go up, and so I agree with you. However, broken rotor heads,
What I'm asking is the
pipe-
contract in that price.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So that 49,440 includes our contract with the irrigation company plus the maintenance through Seacrest. Is that
Plus-
correct?
Plus parts, which could
I'm
bring.
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
irrigation.
plus
That's why
repairs and
there's a-
maintenance.
That's why there's a
Okay.
surplus.
Unless it's major. If there's a major irrigation issue, that's handled from reserves. But all the minor stuff, broken rotor heads, broken head,
The parts can go up, they have a way of doing it.
yeah. So everything on this list
Okay,
that
I
we have.
understand. Okay.
So it just gives us a little bit more, room if, as things are older and they break.
Yeah, and they break a lot, and there's leaks. And is that number experience rated? Do you have the data on what we have
Right.
spent on fixing the irrigation infrastructure?
I don't
The
think so.
broken pipes, etc.
I don't-
Yes.
Okay.
Through August, or excuse me, through the middle of August, we've spent 67,000 so far.
Well,
This is a $100,000 a year line item.
So,
How
How
do
do
we
you have
get away with
49?
49?
That's what I'm-
because we're still moving some of the items around. Like I said before, any of the major items get paid from reserves. The problem is that the line items that we have in there right now are all in the expense category, and some of them haven't been moved out. So, like there's some pumps, and so as long as we're still below the 313, I'm gonna leave it in that subcategory.
Yeah.
But if we go above the 313, we need to talk about using reserves to pay for it because we didn't have it budgeted. But right now, our estimate is 303,000 for 2018. My total line item is 313,000 as my budget. So I'm still to the good of about 9,900. So when I did the increase, it wasn't just for the contract. Parts go up, people go up, all these things go up all at once. And just so we have enough to cover it, I still think we'll be in line. So even if the same amount of things broke and everything cost 3% more, we're still covered. But if not as many things break, then we'll be to the better.
You may not know this, but Donald, how many pumps have we replaced this year? Irrigation pumps?
A lot.
Pumps? No, not a lot. Two or three maybe.
Most of them were last year.
Really?
I don't-
And when you've done most of them now, you're not gonna see a lot
In
of
most
them.
cases, it was either the pump motor or the pump. They're not the same.
Yeah, I think we only have 2 pumps.
Two. Question.
Put
Yes.
repairs on it.
Upon, all the way up begins at irrigation fees, 109,000 and change. Then down below, it says irrigation expense, 111,000. We're already in the whole $9,000.
Where did you see the 109,000?
It's under income.
Under income,
Oh.
4,100.5 irrigation fees.
So that's split to get to the total of the 7.6 million. I don't know if there's an issue in there. All I do know is that at the last budget meeting, what these numbers are and the general fee, we moved landscaping from general into irrigation. Now, on way that it got billed is it could have been billed under general, not irrigation. So this isn't a budgetary line item. This one is this is the budget, 313,000 for all landscape and irrigation, and we estimate that for landscape and irrigation we'll spend 303,000. The reason why they're together now is, like I said from the previous year, everything that Seacrest was doing for whether it's landscaping or some irrigation repairs that they do, it was very time consuming having to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I put it as one line item, so irrigation and landscape expense, $313,000 budget, everything falls into those line items. But the way on the income side, it could have just been mixed into general still. So I wouldn't use the 109,000 as a line for whether we're over or under. Okay, so general administration. So this is the biggest one with the longest list. This covers all of the, what I would consider, little items, or just the things that you want to have it allocated, but, it doesn't fall under the other groups. So let's start with beautification. We have a budget line item of $30,000, which is in line from the 2018 budget. Repairs and maintenance, we have a slight increase to $200,000 from $190,000.
Question.
Yes.
All right, repairs and maintenance, will that include the security fence that we need to put up?
Are the security fences the perimeters?
The perimeter fences that we're taking down, that we should be putting up now, that's gonna cost us $250,000.
So just like the other question I had regarding major irrigation, same thing with fences. Fences are not repairs and maintenance. Fences are a reserve line item. I believe I have 4 fences in reserves, which is each perimeter side of a fence. I have 1 side fully funded. I have 3 other sides 25% funded. The 50% this coming up here. So however you allocate that money for your fence money, you do have money that's put away in reserves.
And correct me if I'm wrong, we have 7,854 units.
Yes.
All right, and if you take $250,000 and break that down yearly per unit, it's $31.83. It comes out to $2.65 per unit per month.
I can't do the math in my head, but let's just say I agree with
My
that.
question is, why are you doing that?
Because I think that should be included in everybody's.
No, it is.
It is. We
it
have
is.
a line
It's a
item.
reserve line
We have
item.
a line item where we already set up to pay for fixing a Haverhill fence.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
trouble
all
was,
4
it used to
fences.
be the one that ran to, what's that street up the street from us where the electrical building, electrical company used to be? But anyway, that was 125,000 we put away. We're gonna use that to fix the fence.
When we
The
get to
other money
reserves,
we set aside for additional fence work can also go to fix this fence. So the shortfall is much smaller than you think of it.
Okay.
But we also have to decide what the Sand Hill we're doing, so where we get the rest of it. And if we have the rest of it because it's cement, it's different than if it's just a normal fencing.
yes,
So
but
we have no
everyone
ability
does
to-
pay for
We
it.
have no ability to fix that up until we get some kind of an answer. This is, again, rough draft of where we're starting. And a lot of these things will change as we talk about more.
Now, are we also going, in relation to the fencing, are we gonna have issues with the county as far as permits and all that stuff?
Absolutely.
Or will they,
There's a permit requirement, we have an engineer that's worked on it. He'll be at a meeting, I believe, Thursday, to make a presentation on what the county says we have to do. We have to put a 5-foot walkway in. We have to lift the aluminum equipment that allows people to walk through safely, take that out till we put the walkway in. And all of that is part of what we're looking at.
Sir?
thank you.
Just having come out of the beautification committee meeting, maybe something's going on in back channel, but the chair reiterated to me that they have requested 60K. Now, I did say, did you submit justification to finance? I'm not sure that's been done, but is everybody on board here with this 30K?
Well, at the moment, we're also looking at, what is the 4798? Isn't that what you're assuming they spent this year?
Yes.
And that disagrees with the number you gave me the other day of 22 something, I think that I told you.
Yeah, you sent me a thing, we have 26 and change left for beautification.
Oh, well, I'm not far off.
So that's, you're pretty near.
25,000.
No, I'm-
You're pretty near. You're near.
I'm just saying, you got 30K up there for next year,
And they want
and they want
60.
60K.
Right.
Big difference.
Is everybody in agreement? That's all I'm asking.
Well, let,
Yes.
Joy.
I'm not talking about beautification, I have another question that you.
Oh, okay. Just give us 1 second then. Okay, so for beautification, one of two things can happen. I can drop in 60,000 now. We can change it later. Or, after talking with Mr. Black a few weeks ago and going through the number of what beautification is spent, there was some discussion about whether or not to move that to a capital improvement item.
Now I'll talk about it.
Okay,
Now you're talking about beautification. We just had a committee meeting this morning, and so far they voted in favor of going forward with a new sign for Okeechobee at the price of $19,000 and change. We have $26,000 left. So if the delegates, I wanted to go to the people, if they vote for the new sign, then we'll see what's left. But we've been working on something for 5 years that started at $70,000, now we're down to $19,900. And it was voted. It has to go through the channels of the officers, executive board, so you're not gonna know till the next delegate meeting, because the people have to vote, not
so
the
I
officers.
will say this, just from years and years and years of doing this. Put the 60, make it I still say doing the capital is probably better because, and the reason why I say moving it as a reserve item for all future years. Right now, it's use it or lose it. If they don't spend the 30,000 by
We're
the end
going
of
to
the year,
spend it, hopefully,
yeah, but there's a lot of hopes and dreams out there.
yeah,
If you don't spend the 30,000, you lose it.
I know.
If we switch beautification for a long-term strategic plan, I suggested that we move it as a reserve line item. That way you always have a fund that you can pull from once 1 year,
Yeah.
10 times
So
the
you're
next
gonna
year.
move it to a reserve line.
It's your decision. You guys are the owners.
And all of this is part of what we're talking about can come in the second and
To
third
go into
meeting.
reserve, yeah.
Right now, we're going over the basics.
Okay,
Trigger the ones you want to talk
Right.
about. We'll get into it. But
okay.
let's get
I don't
through
wanna
the
get
first
into it.
row.
I just have a simple question.
Oh, yeah. What was the other question?
Under repairs and maintenance, not roads, not fences, what does that mean, repairs and maintenance? What does that
Oh,
cover?
I don't know why it says not roads. Not
Well-
roads was an early adoption from one of a few predecessors of mine that said, okay, repairs and maintenance, not roads, because when you repaired a road, an asphalt patch, a striped line, they had line items for it back then. I want less
So
line
we
items.
should take that out then, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's what
Yeah,
I
so
wanted.
we'll take that out.
We will
Okay.
fix.
And then, because there used to be a line item for
I know.
asphalt repairs,
Okay.
paint, and things like that. So, so next week we'll talk about beautification, or next meeting we'll talk about beautification, finalize that. Repairs and maintenance will fix that. Utilities, electric, utilities, water. So one of the big things we did last year too to reduce some of the line items is I combined all the utilities, electric and utilities, water. We still track it by the individual accounts. We still look at it for the guardhouse, the 2102, all the ones that we handle. But we have one single line item. Now, because I think we're going to have a little bit of room in the budget, I didn't increase it. I left it exactly the same. The number that we calculated last year was a good estimate. We did it based on the best of information. We did have a slight reduction in fuel costs, and FP&L also gave everyone some discounts and some rebates because they had charged us so much for hurricane surplus, whatever they call it, where they take some money from us and hold on to it just in case, that they didn't need. So I left it exactly the same. If anyone disagrees with that, just let me know. But as of right now, we think we're going to spend 166, and we have a budget of 196. So I don't think there's much reason to do it. Now, for water, on the other hand, so when it comes to the reclaimed water, water usage, and all the line items that we have, let me go ahead and pull that out. So on average, we're spending roughly 4,200 every single month. Now that's the average. Some months it's a little higher, some months it's a tiny bit lower. So our number that we calculated before, which was the 47,000, the problem with that is that took into account the 3,400 that we pay every single month, and we had an average last year in 2016 and 17 of between 400 and 600 for one part of the water and about 100 for the second part. This year, we're doing 3,400, which is our bill every single month, plus we're averaging almost $700 for one account and $141 for the second account. So this number I increased to be in line with what we think the estimate's going to be. Discussion.
All right, are you including reclaimed and potable in there?
Yes.
Are you accounting for the infrastructure recovery fee on the reclaimed water plant? Which is
Yes.
about 3,400, I think.
3,411.
Okay. The worst that can ever get. They'll only give us 750K gallon max. So I know that the fee is going up a little, but I think the worst it could get is 1,000 a month. Reclaim.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that is true. We do stay below that amount.
But they never give us our allotment, so.
But before we were spending on average around $500. Now we're spending an average of $700 to $800. So that's where we're seeing the difference between the 49,000 we estimated and the 54,000 we're going to spend.
The water company is very unhappy because they shot themselves in the foot, and I don't care. You know, we're paying next to nothing for that commodity, and they really can't raise it. They can't raise it. It's contractual.
So they just don't give us
What is it?
anything.
4 cents? 4 cents a
So
thousand?
they don't like the terms and just don't give us anything.
They don't give us water.
We don't get our allotment.
No.
They complain, the reason for that is their equipment isn't working well.
Yeah, we have to complain all the time in dry season.
Legal fees. So legal fees, we had a budget of 20. I increased it to 25,000. We did have additional legal fees. Now, there's 3 parts to our legal fees. We have one part which is investigations, one part which is for what I would consider, I don't know how to define it, but minor legal. And then we have a reserve line item for contractual disputes with Millennium. So we have 3 pots of money: the investigations,
Corporation counsel.
routine questions. I'm sorry.
Corporation counsel.
Yeah. And so this year we estimate that we're going to spend close to 25. So I increased it from 20,000 to 25,000. Okay, next.
A question.
Oh, yes.
Anita, you're here from advisory. Will we need money, or is it going everything through Rod, for those bylaws to be looked at next year that advisory is working on? What will that cost?
I mean, we've.
If you send it out to a
for this
lawyer.
year already.
Yes.
They've already looked at them once. They will look at them one more time. I assume that is involved in 2018 expense already.
Right.
So it wouldn't be more than that, I don't believe.
How much will it be? Will it go into this category of 25,000 for all legal fees,
Yes.
including yours?
Sure.
Yours is not included in this right now.
Well, is it not? Because if they've already had them look at the bylaws, then I would have already paid for it.
So how How do we know that?
Well, I was thinking that they must have looked at the bylaws in the beginning of 2018 within the first 4 months.
They did.
Yeah,
Not
because
in
that's when
March.
we got our biggest bills.
That's what it was, yes.
Yeah.
Do you know how much it was? offhand?
No, but I mean, I see that the number for the first few months is around, let's say, 8,000 for the first few months, and then it trickled down to being only, less than 1,000 for a whole month's worth of questions.
Okay, so,
Maybe the
That
same
same
thing again,
pattern
but he's
will be-
already increased it
right.
to cover the projection.
Yes, sir.
The only little spike that might roll in there is legal support on one vote per unit.
Yeah,
But I think 25K is probably okay.
And filing by law with the county?
Filing is not,
That's not,
yeah.
okay, it'll fit, yeah.
Because they're not a part of, they do the strike-throughs and all of that, but then we handle all the meetings with the delegates, the approvals, all of that stuff. So even if, so I agree with you that with the money that we spent for them to review it the first time, let's say it is the second, so then we would still be within 25,000. But then if we had anything above and beyond that, we wouldn't have any room. So you guys want to go up to 30 and have a little bit of a breather.
that's what I'm asking
Yeah, you
Anita.
know what, I mean, it makes sense, it makes sense. It'll give us some flex.
Okay, insurance. So as of right now for insurance, I have 81,000, and you're wondering, well, how did it go up 25%? So that's just based off the preliminary numbers. There's a whole functionality with doing prepaid insurance, things like that. Is there anyone that disagrees with that we need to go to Tony, get it all broken down so we can have an explanation of it for the next meeting? Yes, sir.
Tony is going to be, as she always is, very conservative. She's going to say 5 to 10%. As always, we work very hard to keep that at least level or make it decrease.
So I don't,
But from what we've been hearing, I don't see, where's Tony over here?
No,
I don't see any major increase.
No.
I just don't see it.
so in the estimate for the 61,000, when we made that estimate, it was based off of Brown and Brown's
right.
entire package, excuse me. Where I failed and why we're going to partially go over budget is I did not take into account workman's comp from Zenith. We also did not, we also had one expense that we didn't realize was going to be an expense for the 2017 year. So as of right now, I'd like to leave it at the 81 because I don't think it's Tony being conservative. It was our number needed to match what we believe it will be. But I think when we do sit down with Tony, we should be able to, because I think she had said the same thing to me last year, which was 58 to 61.
All right.
Question,
Yes.
David.
Sebastian, and anyone in here who has a pool is well aware of this. There have been some real issues on the pools.
Yes.
They have gone up on the order of 150% or more. I don't know how that's going to be resolved.
So, just so everyone knows what he's talking about, trampolines, pools, dogs. Everyone who has insurance doesn't realize this, but there are these contractors that will go by, they'll take pictures of your backyard, your front yard, they'll try to get pictures of inside your house. these contractors are looking for anything that may be of a potential issue. No one wants to be on the 5 o'clock news as an insurance company to say, my dog bit somebody and these people didn't cover. Well, it's because you didn't tell us you had a dog. So I know that rates for people with pools, trampolines, and dogs have been increasing, not even a small amount. Some of them have been huge jumps. I know for another association, I want to say it went up $18,000 or $19,000. When we asked them what it was from, they said it was from the reevaluation of the pool. What the distance is from walk to seat is, the bathroom, shower before use, can anyone get into it, does it have a gate around it? Just huge amounts of things that we had no idea. So we'll talk to Tony and we'll figure that out. Okay, office supplies. I just kept that within line. Account fees. We budgeted $38,000 in 2018. We have a budget of $38,000 in 2019. The only thing that is going to be possibly different about that is we're discussing possibilities for reducing the way that we bill to where one part is UCO operations and one part is UCO reporter, and how we split that up and how we work those out, the audit, all those other things. We'll finalize that and we'll get a proposal over too on how we're going to work that out. We think that as things are becoming a little bit more automated and there's a learning curve with anyone, that should even out, so I don't think we'll see any jump there. Administration, right now we have a 3% increase. That will be, I guess, discussed by the compensation committee, or do you guys have that?
Salary.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll get the answer back from that committee. Taxes is a formula, so I can't control anything about that. Okay, computer-related equipment and computer maintenance. So just like we talked about last year, reducing the line items, computer and related equipment should really be its own reserve line item. But it's not so big that it encompasses a huge amount. So my thought is that we take computer and we switch it to computer maintenance and related equipment, make one line item. Now, the reason why the line item has gone from the 15 and 12 to 30,000 and 12,000 is we believe that in 2019 there's going to be new computer upgrades that are going to take place. As far as what those are, they're all, I guess, proposals at this point. But I know that when we do switch that stuff out, it can be rather costly. Does anyone have any ideas or knows more about that?
Okay. I talk to Steve and Ed all the time. There are certainly maybe some items. We may be stuck with replacing that Xeon box. That's a big ABDI server. And that is going to be a Husky expense. So that number may be okay.
Maybe close.
That Xeon box is a decade old or more.
It runs 24/7 and it hasn't been doing the best job of allowing incoming information from this company.
Yeah, okay.
And ours going to their company.
And that could be what, 10, 12K?
15, I believe, was the quote, or the number I
Got
heard.
that from Roy?
I still haven't got it in writing.
I got you.
That's why it's a little high on it.
So moving these two accounts together, computer equipment and computer-related equipment, you can see it's almost grouped now completely together. So I think reducing one more line item is probably a good idea. Pest control. So the way that we had pest control before is we had part of it in, we had half the numbers in repairs, and we had some of the items for laundry, they were all split out. So I've recommended that we combine them all into one. So we have $5,500 a year, which includes all the areas. It has its own line item now, and instead of being grouped in with the other items, it allows us to be able to track and utilize that for future negotiations. Right now we're paying $428 a month plus $54 for the laundry room. I think that as we discuss with them or whenever their contract comes up, combining that all into one and they just go out the one time and do all the spraying, that way it's cheaper. So right now I left it at the $5,500, but if something changes or when we go up to the next meeting with them, I guess that would be something that we can talk about.
You skipped channel 63.
Oh, sorry. Channel 63. So I didn't know what to put, so I put the 2018 number. And when I say I didn't know what to put, I took the expenses that we had from channel 63 and I was trying to find my notes because I remember at the last year's meeting, we discussed of why that may go down a little bit. Let me just grab my... Okay, in 2017, for Channel 63, Smart Communities, Comcast, DSL stuff, we spent a total of $6,000. In 2018, all of some of those items that were in there before, where they had done some upgrades or some additional items, are all removed. So all we have is the monthly fee. And for the first 8 months, we've only spent $2,101.
The monthly fee from who?
Oh, Smart Communities.
Dimitri.
Dimitri. So we are paying him for when he comes in
No,
to
we
do
have,
it.
we have a monthly.
But it has no other expense. We have a contract?
I think we do.
I never saw it. Okay.
Yeah, we do.
There's a lot more to this than meets the eye, and it needs to be put on the table.
Yeah.
Contractually, Comcast owes us a community channel, 63, cost $0.
Right.
Contractually, AB is giving us, by contract, 63, 95, and 94. Cost should be $0.
Right.
This is laid out in
I
contract.
understand.
So, we gotta dig into what we're paying Dimitri for to begin with, when we should be going after Comcast. It's our gear, but they maintain it.
They maintain 63, but they don't maintain the other two.
Well,
He
let's-
does.
let's
They
be
will.
very honest
And he will
here.
continue to do that.
Let me be very honest here. The little technical chicanery. Well, it is what it is. Channel 95 was injected into the multiplex without Comcast's knowledge. You know, this is a 256 QAM signal. Nobody's watching it at the head end. You understand what I'm saying? And Dimitri has supplied a real neat little modulator to make that happen. And that's what we're paying for. And we gotta kind of work that out. Because my claim is, when AB throws a switch, we should be getting 3 community channels for
Right.
nothing,
That's right.
That's right, David.
right?
That's right.
That's right, yeah.
So what's the person's name that does the Smart Communities?
Dimitri.
Dimitri?
Yeah. You have to talk to Dimitri. I have been a little mandrake the magician.
Okay, so I'll find out about that. So as of right now, we'll leave it there and then we'll come back to it. Postage.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
63. Now, there is supporting gear that we have to buy for 63. Cameras, chips.
Okay.
And we're going to have to buy, when we get the AV equipment, UCO, we're going to have a steel gate for it to be behind so people don't mess with it.
Yeah, but this fee though, that the only expense we have in there though is just the monthly maintenance fee.
Yeah, well, it's...
So the stuff from last year, every time that we bought equipment, it did go into that number, which is where we got the $7,800 number from.
Isn't 63 part of communications, which is part of the UCO reporter? Does the expense from that way, or is that separate?
It's separate.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
There's no fee for 63.
What?
There's no fee for 63.
No, but
The
there is
other
for
two
95 and
The
the
other
other.
two stations, Dimitri supplies.
Right, but they're part of communications, which is, communications is reporter and the channels, right, David? So the expense from them should be coming from the proper channels, if you know what I mean.
We can put it on the reporter if they want it.
Right is right, but I still say we shouldn't be paid.
Dimitri.
You need them,
Well, at the moment, he's maintaining two stations, nobody else knows anything about.
You know, if he wants to sell us his modulator, just like Comcast, all that gear is ours, that old gear.
Well, you can stop signing approval for his spending.
Wait.
I'm concerned.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so we'll find out about that, and we'll get in contact with Dimitri, and I guess we'll just have a powwow about that. Okay, postage. So I left postage, switched it from 500 to 1,200. That number of what the estimate is, it's so hard to gauge how many items will be sent out. So I gave us a little bit of room, so that way if we need something, we have it available to us. We do have it split up into two categories. We have one for operations, one for the reporter. But this gives us just a little bit of breathing room. Copier expense. So effective September 1st, October 1st, this $24,000 line item could go almost non-existent. We would just pay for the service ourselves. We would pay for the ink ourselves. We own the machine, so we wouldn't have to pay a lease fee or a monthly service contract. And the reason why we're taking this step into the unknown is right now they charge us a per copy charge. So it was about 10 to 12 cents for color copies, and then the first 10,000 black and white were free. The problem is that if you have a document, and let's say this is page number 1 and you've got these little green dots at the top, but then everything after it's black and white. Each page acts as a colored copy. You know, the copy machine can't recognize what's colored, what's black and white. So we did a cost comparison. If we had to buy a roller, if we had to buy a drum, we called a few copy repair places. Hey, will you work on this copier? Here's where we found parts. Do you guys have parts? Some had parts, some didn't. Because it's not a brand new copier. And we talked about some ideas of cost. And what we found out is that when you take the profit motive out of a company that sells these monthly service plans, there's a lot of room in there. So if everything on the copier breaks every single day and they have to come out and fix it, they're still good, which is the way that they work with SunCharge. If they do hardly anything, they make a huge profit margin. So what we did is we took that part of it out and said, okay, when our contract runs up, we'll go to Office Depot and order the ink, or however we procure it. If something breaks, we'll call a maintenance company that will come over and work on the unit for just that issue that's broken. And that could save us $12,000 or more dollars a year. So we think that that's a big savings. As of right now, it's left in there. By the time that we get have a contract canceled, see where we're at, by the third meeting, that could be reduced to some other number. Okay. Okay, the welcome committee, I left that as 3,000. We'll go over their proposals. Kitchen expenses. So we made a big push this last year to reduce kitchen expenses. I believe this proves that we did a really good job with that. I left the budget the same as the 4,700. Gives us a little bit of room, but we definitely were able to bring it down from the previous year. Bingo net, I removed that line item as a budget line item. I hope bingo pays for itself. Volunteers, we don't have the proposal yet that I haven't seen, but I left it the same, 5,300, so I just carried that forward. Taxes, I removed that line item. It's sales tax, it doesn't go there. Property tax, I left it at 1,600. That number could change slightly, but as of right now, I don't think it's a de minimis number. Do I have any questions about any of the expenses pre the reporters, sales tax, and reserves?
Educate me a minute on what we're paying. What's the volunteer line? What's that about?
Oh, that's where it's like food and stuff, right? For the volunteers,
volunteer
like when they all get
luncheon.
together, the luncheon.
Volunteer luncheon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Gotcha.
right, that isn't my question.
Oh, yes.
Telephone expenses. Is that the cost, is that cost include our monthly billing, or is that just expenses incurred for the telephone?
It is telephone monthly expense plus any telephone equipment to be purchased.
So that's $13,230 for our monthly expenses and all expenses incurred for any maintenance of them. Am I correct?
Yes, but we were too low on the difference between the monthly telephone expense and what we estimated the telephone maintenance or new equipment would cost. There was a gap of, here I wrote a little note to remind myself. So we were over budget. This is a one-time over budget line item because of some equipment that we had to purchase. In my mind I was thinking, okay, a phone breaks, it's $100, $150. Well, some of these machines are a few $100s. So when there's a move.
Yeah, but even beyond that, we had Windstream bail on us providing service for our phones. We had to get a contractor to come in and take that over without any notice from Windstream.
So we have a new
Some of that,
contractor?
we have a new contractor.
Who is it?
It's Alex. He used to work for Windstream, and he's very sharp on the kind of phone we have. But we've also added 4 phones,
Oh.
put in a whole new system.
Well, because of the reporter coming in, am I
Yeah.
right? Okay, but what I'm saying is then some of that expense would have to go towards the reporter
Yes,
expense.
I don't want to mix it up.
Wait,
The reporter stuff is
it's
on
separate,
the reporter.
right?
Yes.
Okay, but the other thing I'm asking is, would they be coming in, although I don't know what kind of contract you have with this other guy, I'm sure it's can be canceled in 30 days like
It
most
can.
of ours, if we look into AB handling our phones, which I think can cut this really down. This is just future stuff.
We'll have to see where it goes.
Yeah, and the biggest problem is it's almost not even who you use. It's that there's this, conglomerate on this archaic system that
Archaic
we
is
still
right.
we still use. If anyone ever gets a chance to visit my office, everything is voice over internet protocol, and there's multiple lines. Everyone could be on the phone at the same time. 100 people could be on the phone at the same time because it's all run through a digital interface. But those systems are you know, I probably spent $2,000 to get to that
Well,
type
I'm
of
saying
system.
if we get AB to come in and we should negotiate with them, I think we can do very well.
Yeah, but the cost of the equipment though is really,
Well,
it's
it
not even
depends
their
how you
service cost.
negotiate with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
AB will pull by 2019 a 1 gigabit line
Yeah.
into UCO.
Mhm.
I believe the 1 gigabit line will support VoIP for every phone unit.
That's
Okay?
what I'm
And
talking
we should get a very good deal.
Yeah,
We're just gonna have to play hardball.
that's what
In
I
the
mean.
meantime, work on the budget that we have to work with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have to work with them, of course.
for my system, it's $11 a month. Because it's not a phone line, it's not a two-wire, because I'm over the internet, there's unlimited international calling, I could have 100
AB
people on the
is
phone
doing
at
the
the same
same
time.
thing in the houses, okay, just to give you an idea. So I think, like you said, you gotta use a figure now, but we should get that figure down to practically,
Yeah, and I believe the 1 gig line is next year, right?
yeah, by June, by
Yeah.
June, by June.
Yes.
So I think as of right now, we leave the line item, we'll leave it alone until that gets pulled and then we find out, I guess, with the discussions with AB and everyone
Okay.
else. Okay, any other questions about anything before reporter, sales tax and reserves? Okay, so for the reporter, if you scroll all the way down to here, it has the 102,000. That's because it's a wash of whatever we received in advertising. Now, we've made very big strides in 2018 for the reporter, which should make things a little bit more automated, hopefully save on a little bit of expense and increase the revenue, which is automatic credit card billing and a few other things that we're working on that we hope to be rolled out before the end of the year with everyone, with all the current customers. That should hopefully allow us to budget a surplus in 2019. The reason why you can't have a surplus for investigations and for some of the other items is it's too hard to gauge and you would never be able to properly estimate it. For the reporter, we could estimate. So once we get that in line, we'll be able to hopefully start allocating some income from the reporter, which will reduce future dues.
It's not a lot of money, but I would point out with the reporter now integrated into UCO space, and we're going to discuss this, there's pros and cons, but I personally don't see why you can't use a work group copier and eliminate a separate line for copier expense under the reporter.
So
The work group copier is more than capable
I
of,
think-
it's not a lot of, it's not a lot of
I
paper.
think he's counting on what they produce on our copier to go to them as
Right.
an expense.
Yeah.
So we're
So-
not using the second copier, that's their share, and they make those large sheets.
Right.
We're paying for the paper,
Right.
we're paying for
Yes.
the print, we bill them for it.
well, and the other thing that, oh, you go first.
No, I was waiting to get the graphic artwork.
Oh, okay. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about when it comes to the administration cost of splitting those expenses. All of this stuff is a moot point. It doesn't matter if it's 20,000, 50,000, a million. It doesn't matter. As long as the number right now is a wash, because right now we're making a few changes. However, when there starts to be a profit motive in there, we'll be less concerned about allocating some of those expenses because we'll look at it from a different viewpoint and say, okay, just like the interest from the CDARS accounts, how profitable can we get the reporter to make it so our dues now go down, so that we get some sort of benefit. There's a lot of room to advertise, there's a lot of room for improvement, and I think that those will make big changes in 2019. What did you want to say about graphic artwork?
You have down $27,000, am I right?
Yes. And
On what basis?
so the numbers that we have,
Yes.
That's great.
the numbers that we have for the expenses,
What did not think about it, man? That's not, that's true. No, it's not, that's right.
Let me ask the question in a different way.
Yeah,
If we were capable, and I'm not jumping to say we are, of preparing camera-ready graphics, should we avoid that expense completely?
so one of the talks right now is to bring somebody
Bob
in-house
would, yeah.
on a contractual basis that would convert it to, that would convert the images to vector, and then from the vector be able to go to the press. I've only talked to a few guys about it, and the biggest thing was, you know, if you're dealing with a mom and pop doctor, let's say, and you have to go back and forth a gazillion times, you know, that it should
Yeah,
really be
that's
on
right.
them to provide vector-ready work. And we thought, well, what about if we say, okay, Dr. So-and-so, here's the vector guy, you two work together, I know, you two work together and you go from there. The problem is that
Doesn't
it doesn't. It doesn't. Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work. So what we said is, okay, so take it back in-house and we say, okay, we'll handle the vector. And basically where we'll make the money is we charge, right now we're charged whether it's difficult or not difficult. We're charged when they create the vector. On the contractual basis, the difference will be is if they have to go back and it costs us a little more, we may lose money on that particular vector creation versus all the money we made from all the other ones that were easy.
What I'm getting at is, right now we pay a graphic artist who works for the printer. I presume that's the money you're talking about.
Yeah, and I've got it combined into the first two categories, so it's not allocated perfectly. But it's Suncoast. So
Yeah.
these two line items for
Are
printing
together.
and production, yes.
What I'm saying is, we have a contract. Now, when I look at these figures you're showing me, that's a lot of money, 27,059. That's like 80, what, almost 80,000, close to it?
Yeah, and that is just the
80
budget
something
line item.
thousand?
That's the budget line item, but as of right now, we've only spent a total of 70.
Yeah, because I understand that. But we still, that's only up until when?
That's the estimate for the entire year.
Estimate for the year, right.
For
Which it's
2018.
going to be, which it'll be under, because we're not paying a graphic artist, though, $27,000.
Well, actually, yes, it will be under, because this is the estimate right here for 2018.
Yeah,
So
I'm
we
talking
think-
about the one line you have for graphic artists.
Yeah, I understand, the budget
Okay.
line item. But I'm saying, yeah, we think we'll spend 70,000 instead of 80,000.
Right.
Or
I'm just saying,
90,000.
and that contract can be renegotiated any time.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's only a finite amount of time. So what we've been concentrating on is the credit cards, the automations, and kind of getting our pricing models down. But the second phase was, do we go to a printer closer to us? Do we bring the designs in-house? Deal with the contractual
Well,
person?
there's a lot of questions there. Yeah,
Exactly,
I
and that's going to
understand.
be phase two.
The printer that we've used before was we pretty much got out of hand as far as what the cost was. So that's why they switched to this guy. This is a few years ago.
Mhm.
I was still working on it. And this guy was a lot more reasonable.
At the
And he
time.
does a great job.
Yeah, it's not cheap, but here's the thing.
They don't check it.
Sometimes if you want to reevaluate these things, you have to know what you're getting into. So we're starting with credit cards, more automation, reoccurring monthly billing, pricing models. Phase one, phase two is now switching into, okay, who's going to draw, who's going to put together, who's going to print. And then phase three will obviously be just kind of, what the the critical issues are and the monthly maintenance. You know, how do we keep this going while we constantly have turnover and, you know, things that could happen. So, but basically the point is though, 102,000, it nets out as a wash as of right now. 2019 will be different.
Basically, the paper pays for itself, doesn't it?
No.
Well, yeah, that's what we have. We say that it pays for itself, even though there may be partly surplus.
There might be surplus. What about any monies owed
What do you mean?
through advertising that's not collected or uncollectible?
Well, that's what we're doing now.
That process.
Oh, no,
That's
this is
always been a
cash
problem.
basis.
Always.
Well, it's a big problem.
It's always been a problem.
This is cash basis.
Oh,
Phase
cash,
one was
okay.
the credit cards, the automation, and the monthly recurrent billing. That's hopefully going to make it so we don't have that as an issue ever again. Is
Okay.
that once you set it, you walk away.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Barbara brings up a good point, and I look at the reporter as a business, not as a kid's game in the sandbox. And we need to adopt a very simple philosophy. No checking, no adding.
Pay as you go.
So I don't disagree with what you're saying, but as of right now, which is why we're in discussions about this right now, is there needs to be an operations person and then there needs to be a reporter person with two separate hats. That when they go into that room, their only job is to make the reporter profitable and a lot of money. That it's an income producing position. My position as during operations, all I do is cost you money, and you know, I don't know. Well, I don't save money because nothing I do is income producing. So it costs you money. By putting someone dedicated in the reporter position, I think it takes a little bit of the pressures, the technological pressures from the people that are there now, so they don't have to, you know, worry about like, okay, how do we set up this credit card? Who do we talk to next? Okay, let's do collections. All right, let's call these people. And you know, when it comes to checks and things like that, there's such a strenuous process to even get an invoice produced that by the time I got the invoice produced, the paper has already gone out. You know, I can't, you know, you try to make it faster, but the problem is that, again, we only have a contractual amount of hours that we're trying to fill, and we spend it mostly on operations, and now we're talking about, okay, this is operations, this is reporter, and then that way it has dedicated time, collections, you know, going back after the people, listen, you didn't pay this month, you're being pulled from the paper the next. Then we're only out 1 month. But as of right now, though, we still are in surplus, which is good. Okay, reserves. Let's do sales tax before we jump to reserves. Yes.
I had worked for the paper, and they had with the bank to get the credit card to work, and we weren't getting enough usage from credit cards, and if I'm not mistaken, they took it away.
You did.
Yes. So that was why we just talked about having a person that is in a paid position to help with the reporter. You know,
Another paid person.
well, no, it's the same paid person.
There's no paid person in the reporter.
No.
Is
But
there?
if you
No.
wanted to have somebody
Thank you.
that was dedicated to that time to go after collections, to go after collections, to create all this infrastructure, it's not the operations person, it's not the operations part of UCO that should pay for that. So if I'm here 16 hours and 14 hours is
Oh,
operations
you're talking
and 2
about
hours.
an accountant doing
Exactly.
UCO reporting.
And like with the credit cards and creating the pricing models, you know, I price the models to where, you know, we have increases, and what we're going to do is, you know, instead of you getting increased, we'll keep you the same, but you got to switch to automated billing. They love the idea. They say this is much easier. Boom, they sign up and they continue. Then all the new sales are under the new pricing model. No choice in the matter. Everyone is automatically charged on their credit card or ACH.
I thought we had.
That's the way it should have
I
been.
thought we had a volunteer in there that takes care
She
of.
died.
Huh? What?
Seymour?
What did he say?
She dies.
Two guys, you said,
No, she
Bob?
died.
She died.
No, but we have another person now, Bob,
There was,
that's supposed to be taking care of the advertising and the billing. And if he's not doing that, I don't understand.
I hear what you're saying. When I first started talking about the reporter, I said that it's a income producing position. What kind of CPA would I say, okay, let's go ahead and put somebody in that's dedicated to reporter, and now we lose more money than we were making before. We'll just keep with what we have with the current system. My thought was the person extremely exceeds what we have as surplus from the reporter, because everything, like what you had said about the credit cards, they weren't being utilized. Well, you know, you've got to be able to push those, and you've got to be able to sell it, and you've got to be able to put that all together. And I think it's unfair to put so much pressure on the volunteers that, you know, they only give so many hours. And, you know, we're talking about 3 really big phases for changes for the reporter that I think will move it well into the future as far as how we're doing the collections, what the pricing models are, and how we're doing that. Right?
I don't know.
Well, exactly. That's why I think it would be something that we could try.
Reporter has a paid advertising person?
No.
yes,
Oh, the graphic artist?
Yes.
the graphic
Yeah,
artist.
yes.
Yeah, so she's selling the ad.
Thank you, but she
So why
doesn't.
can't she do that?
Exactly.
It's part
She
of her
doesn't.
responsibility.
Yeah, and so that's why we have some changes coming up in phase
No,
number
with
2,
the-
which is to discuss those things.
Well, but this person's getting paid already to,
And what
to
is she
sell
doing?
advertising. She's not getting paid to collect.
Phase 2 that's the time to figure that out. Right now, we're just trying to get AR all cleaned up, switch it to automation, switch it to credit card acceptance, and move us forward on that front. Phase number 2 is to go
I
into
understand.
how do we sell ads, who does the drawings, who's putting all the printing together.
What Ken said is technically correct,
Right.
but to my knowledge, that person who actually works
For
for the
some post.
printer,
That's correct.
Yeah,
I don't think she's brought in a single ad.
No.
So what are we
is she
paying
doing?
for?
what are we
So what is she
paying
doing?
her
She's
for?
doing the graphics only
She
to
does-
help the printer,
Yeah, what
and
she
we're
does
paying for
is
it.
The graphics that I used to do.
Right, Bob.
Whenever ads came in and needed to be done, she's doing it.
That's what she does.
But she interfaces
But
with
she's
the
getting
person
paid
that's
for
doing the advertising.
Yes. She's,
So if she's interfacing with them, she could talk about the billing.
she's not
All these
interfacing
things
with
that
anybody.
you guys are constructively criticizing, I agree with, which is why I'm doing this. I wouldn't be creating phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 if I didn't have the same questions that you have.
But you have all the information, you know about all these different people that do these different
And you know what
jobs.
they do and they get paid for?
I know that I'm working on figuring out a plan that works better than what we have now.
Okay, but let me just tell you something. This paper has been here for longer than me, okay? Run by volunteers longer than me, including Bob, including Marion, including Ken who taught me, all right? You get a volunteer just like you do in UCO who says, I'll take the job and does the job. Do you understand? You
Yes.
don't take a job and then don't do it, or you don't belong there. Now, we
I
can't get a volunteer not paid, that's another story. But have you went down that avenue?
No,
Okay, that's all I'm asking.
understood.
This is fine, but this is professional technical work. You know, Bob did it, I think Ken did it. You
No, they can
just,
do collections for
not
advertising.
anybody who walks through the door can do that work.
No, I'm not talking about graphics, I'm talking
okay.
about advertising, okay? And you can't tell me, I know anybody in this room goes to the post to put an ad in, you're gonna pay for that ad right then and there. They
By
don't let
credit
you
card.
owe money.
By credit card.
We used to,
Or credit card, whatever way you wanna do
I
it.
agree with you.
when the
And
ad.
that's the way, I'm sorry,
first
Bob,
you
let me
came
just
in-
finish. One of the meetings we had going back a while, it was said That's the way the reporter was gonna be run. And everybody agreed. And guess what? It went by the wayside again.
When I
That's
was
why
doing-
a volunteer, it's not that volunteers are unqualified or that I necessarily agree with what both of you said, but this is an income producing
I understand what you're
position
saying, a
or
100%.
role or whatever. And
Or
I
a
think
professional
that,
to do it,
and
yes.
I think that you could definitely get all the volunteers in the world, but I think that trying to come up with all of these things at once, I think is the hard part. And I know we've had the discussion about the credit cards, and we went to the bank and we went to the wrong processor, and then we couldn't meet the minimums, and we get kicked from the system, and then they say, well, what do we do now? And I think that's why it takes someone who, does this with other organizations and puts it all together and kind of creates this workflow that works a little
You
bit
need a
better.
professional, I understand. Oh, I'm sorry, John.
That's all right. Are you saying what we should do is maybe add 6 more hours to you every week so you can allocate someone to do this?
What I'm saying is that as each one of the parts of the phases are commencing, that we need to reevaluate the way that we do things, whether it's through volunteer or through a paid person, and that as we move forward, we keep improving, we keep going through, there's Airspeed, Six Sigma, there's all these different things that always tell you, keep improving, keep improving, keep improving. I don't have the answer today, but 102,000 of income, 102,000 of budgetary expense, and
But
right now it's a wash. for budget purposes.
since you're there already,
Hold on.
yeah.
No, wait, hold
You're,
on.
Or
Next
we
thing.
just get to the next person.
When I was a commissioned salesperson, I was
Could you
just-
talk a little louder, Donald?
Yeah, I will. When I was a commissioned salesperson, I was responsible for my clients, my accounts paying the bills. They didn't pay their bills, I didn't get my commission.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Any business.
So that's the answer, no?
No. Because there's more to it. There's a whole other graphic printing side.
Right, oh, sure.
And this isn't a full-fledged
What is-
magazine. So,
What you're
but I
paying-
agree.
what you are paying for the graphics person here,
It's graphics.
all right, is when they come up and they say, well, we want this on the front page, all right, they're not getting the artwork to put on the front page. They're paying somebody
Right.
to do that,
Right.
all right? There have been times where I did the front
Yes,
page.
you did.
All right, they didn't have to pay for that. Now, since I stopped working as a reporter, now they gotta pay for it. They're paying for somebody to do that front page. They're paying for somebody to lay out everything, because things aren't laid out here.
That's right.
Right? Used to be done, not anymore. So that's what you're paying for. So
Yes.
that money is, it may look like it's being wasted, but it's not.
They need it.
But it is
That paper-
argumentatively not being managed well.
Right.
Because the person that does the work doesn't put the name of the person she did the artwork for, the billing address so we can bill her,
We don't know what
and the
we're gonna
reporter
do.
doesn't know what to do with it, but to follow her up a month later.
I think all that I'm
Ads in the
saying
paper, we can't even send the invoice out.
is that it could be improved.
Yes,
You're right. Big
It
time.
used to be where if a person wanted an ad done, they would come in,
agreed.
they would talk to me, and then after me, they talk to the person next to me.
Well, what we're
who would-
looking to
who would
do
the
is
billing.
to get it managed better
But
than
it
it
would
is
not
right
go
now.
in the paper until it was paid for.
No.
Understood.
This is completely off, but it's driving me crazy. And I think it's a battery conservation thing. Would this stop doing that if you plugged it into the wall?
It's plugged in right now, but the problem is I can't get power into HDMI at the same time. So that's what we're having an issue with. But don't worry, we're on our last part. We have about 5 more minutes. Okay, reserves. So in the budget,
Can that be Zoom?
yes, I'll zoom in. In the budget, we have a line item for reserves for funding at $970,000 for 2018 and $704,000 for 2019. That number is a formula based on this rather big sheet. Okay, so this worksheet is our reserve breakdown. Now, UCO follows a pooled reserves model, which means there technically isn't a breakdown. It's one big pot of money. If it's a reserve item that's approved on by the delegates, then you can spend it. But we have split ours down to be able to properly fund what we have for things that we want to reserve for. So someone, I think you had asked about the fences. So like here's the line item for the fences. And we talk about how many years we have left, how much we want to fund towards it. And we'll just go hit on a few really quick. Okay, so the road, we want a total of $15 million. We have close to $5 million in the budget, and we're going to put another $400,000 away. The culvert engineering, we put away $120,000 this year for culvert engineering if we needed to have that done. We've got the fences accounted for. We've got irrigation and piping at $7 million. We're putting $875,000 away each year for irrigation and piping. We have the Millennium legal fees, which we believe we have $225,000 left. And then we had this emergency one where we funded it in 2018, which is for if there's an all-out emergency, a storm cleanup, a sign falls over, we have that money to take care of that. So the way that the number is calculated is it takes what you would need to fund for the entire year, 1.5 million. Sorry, 1.5 million minus 800,000 that we expect to receive from Atlantic Broadband in 2019. The purpose of this is there anything that you guys would want to account for or add as a reserve item onto this list that I don't have?
Question, what's it for? Are you talking about culvert as in a drain pipe?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it spelled like that?
No, to you.
No.
To you.
Oh, it's spelled wrong, David.
I thought it was a firm.
Yeah.
I did too. An engineering firm.
So they just,
I'm an accountant, not a speller.
that's okay.
And obviously spell check missed it, so it must be a different word.
So what, and this is good to break it out for the delegates. So they understand we're trying to build a number which over time, we will be able to do these projects. Contrary to much dart throwing, the roads have not vaporized in a blaze of phlogiston, and they're gonna last another 5 to 7 years. But I understand what you're doing here. What's pipping?
Oh, that's piping.
Okay.
Another spell check. You know, what's weird is we did this all last year and no one said
I
anything.
knew what it was. Okay.
Say pipping? Oh, let me just-
You got a line item there for walkway that says vote to remove.
Even walkways and.
So last year we had a walkway proposal that was voted to remove last year. I don't remember.
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh.
I do.
Whatever it was, there was a walkway that was proposed, and when we had this meeting here with all the people, and they said that they wanted that removed and taken out. I don't remember exactly what the walkway was. I just remember that it was like 60 grand, and everyone was like, take it out. But if you want to add one, I can add a walkway for 60,000 if
There's
you want to
another
do
one I
it.
want you to add, and that's the speed tables.
Speed tables, okay.
You can't do
So,
that.
does everyone know what the speed tables are?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, raise your hand if you want to add speed
It can't
tables.
happen.
We'll talk about the amount later.
Your argument is that.
Fire Station
You're not allowed to
23
do it.
will not have it.
Okay.
Will not have it. They're
They have
upset.
it in other places and
I'm glad they have it in other places.
It's not an issue.
I have talked to the
Yes, it
fire
is.
captain. They're very unhappy about the bumps we have,
The bumps,
all right?
the bumps
You're running
actually
flank
will
speed,
jump.
you're running flank speed in an ambulance with a heart attack patient on a drip. You cannot bounce that ambulance at 60 miles an hour, 3 feet in the air.
The ambulance shouldn't be going 60 miles an hour to begin with.
Well, let's, hold on, I just want to take this into a different direction.
If
Yeah,
you
let's
were in
stick to the
there,
budget.
you want them to go 100.
Okay,
We cannot just keep playing around with these roads and putting bumps and interfere.
Right.
It's just not gonna work.
well, hold on, this
And
isn't
one
a
other
vote.
thing with regard to that, you have a lot of people coming through the East Gate. The decal doesn't work. Every time they go through, the car's bouncing up and down, it can't be good while they're moving like that.
That's probably what happened.
They don't
We're not talking
understand.
at the gate. We're
There
talking
is one
in
at the
the
gate,
street.
there's a speed
In the
bump
streets
at
he's
the
talking
gate.
about.
Well,
I know.
let's talk about, I just want to say something
I
about
want to
speed
stop
tables.
these people from driving like madmen around.
The way this all works, just so everyone's clear, I just want to reiterate what we talked about in the beginning. Whatever you want to add, this is your time to do it. Now, in the particular case for the speed tables, they're saying that you can't do it, you're saying that you can. Bring whatever you have at the next meeting. What will happen is I will add it on here, then everyone will vote, and that's how we lost the walkway. So that's the way that I do it. If you guys want to do it a different way, let me know, but we can't, if we had a debate about every line item, but bring your information with you at the next meeting, and then we'll have a vote.
I'm not sure why walkway came out, but I think you have repairs. That's what it means to me. Repairs
Yeah.
covered in another part of
Yes.
the budget.
Just starting with the walkway. Last year I proposed that the walkway on Century Boulevard be wide, destroyed and wide, put in a new one. That was taken out of the budget. Now, this walkway happens to be the one that we're now proposing to put in anyway. That's what we're gonna see on Thursday at the infrastructure meeting, along with the fence or a wall.
You're gonna be-
But at the time, that was a vote.
You're gonna have no choice. Code is gonna make you
Right.
open
You have
that
to
up
do
to
it.
5 feet,
Yeah,
all right? And we want to put a new barrier there.
right.
1,360 feet where Waldman pulled it down.
Now, the next thing is where it says Colbert Engineering. I remember this from last year. This was reserved that we put in to insure against another Bath and Body, a roadway collapse. And we salted that away just in case something happens.
It should be irrigation system repair and replacement.
Well, this is, we're talking about storm drains.
Well, yeah, storm drains, fine. Storm drainage repair and replacement.
Right. But
Now-
it's just a name.
Well, and the other thing is that it's pooled reserves, so it doesn't matter if you have incoherent words on there,
You can
Vivian and
use it.
Colbert's.
Doesn't matter.
No,
It's
I
a pooled
understand,
reserve.
Sebastian, you're right. But you're gonna ask people to vote on this. And from your point of view, it could be one line item. Miscellaneous, $23
And
million.
the Colbert engineering, no one's gonna vote on that because it was already voted and approved. This means, this is the balance of that account, so it's already fully funded.
Right.
But again, it's fully funded in a pooled reserves,
Right.
which means it doesn't really matter what that word says. The group said, we want 120,000 put away. He said, Colbert Engineering, they said, okay, but it was a pooled reserve anyways, and it didn't really matter what they said.
It's fine, but some people, if you don't break it out to some extent, will say slush fund.
And vote no.
That's exactly what they'll say in the vote no.
Yeah.
Question.
And I think
True.
breaking it out is good.
So in other words, I just want to get this straight, if anybody does understand, including myself, those reserves there are a pool, correct? Pull
Yes.
those reserves. So we have to do the Century Boulevard, we have to put up a new fence or wall, whatever they're gonna do, and a new walkway and whatever drains, we can take from that pool, but then we gotta pay back. It's like Peter and Paul, am I right?
No.
No. Okay.
So let's just say you have a $6 million balance in your reserves.
Right.
We need to spend $5 million.
Well,
Right?
not- no,
no,
I'm
no, I
saying-
just want to use that
Yeah,
number
okay.
because it
Go
works with
ahead.
the analogy.
Yeah.
So now we only have $1 million in reserves. We have all these balances that we have to catch back up on.
That's what I'm saying.
Yet, at the same time, you really don't. So, like, let's say you did the $5 million worth of roads, and now we have a whole new number go into it. So, it's not always paying it back. It's whatever the balances that were
Okay,
affected
the
now go
balance
back
that were
into
present,
it.
that's what I meant. In
Mhm.
other words, if you delete those balances, because you have to pay for something, you have to replace those balances.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Oh,
Okay, so I added back in the 60,000 for the walkway. We'll figure that out at the next meeting. Is there anything else anyone wants to add to reserves?
I think that 60,000 should not be
Yeah.
included at all.
No,
Because
it
we
shouldn't.
realize that the whole project's gonna have to be done at
Right.
the same time.
Yes.
not a good
And
point.
that's just gonna confuse a lot of people saying, well, how comes this walkway
Yeah.
is being done
You're
now?
right, David.
Yeah,
Because it's gonna be part of one project.
it's a big one.
Removed.
Okay.
Sebastian, last month I brought a proposal for emergency power at the Haverhill Guard House for a total of $17,000. The officers voted that this should be included in this year's budget, next year's budget,
What
2018.
is it? A lady?
So
I think we already have emergency
No,
Yeah,
power.
you
that's,
do.
that's not what that is.
Got it.
Emergency power should be labeled, emergency cleanup. In other words, last year we put that
That is the
100,000 in just in case of
Correct.
to clean up after a hurricane. I think we kicked out about 75K in the last storm.
Then it should say that.
That's
Right,
right.
it's just a label.
Just change the
labeling.
word. Power to clean up.
Because that's included last year in our insurance. I think that's why they took it out.
We could call it hurricane cleanup, just to make it very clear.
Oh, it's in the
Well,
insurance.
It's an earthquake, we still
Emergency, yes, for heritage.
I would take power out of that altogether because it's confusing
Nothing
with,
to do with power.
Got it. Okay, so I switched it to 117,000. So emergency and hurricane cleanup.
okay.
So now we have the 17,000 being funded towards it.
Okay, that's,
All right.
The other thing I just said was the officers voted last month to include a new generator for the Haverhill Guard House. That costs us 17,000. Oh, that's it, 17,000. Okay. But I think that should be two separate items for that.
Was it a generator for 17,000?
Yes.
Oh.
Or it was
Ver-
20.
but that, you don't need a line for that.
Well, we figured that with landscaping.
Why do you need a line for that?
That was your instruction.
This is next year's budget.
Yeah.
And
You anticipating the second guard shack.
no, this is for the first guard shack. I
Well,
brought
that's
the
coming out of this year's money.
Yeah.
Now,
That's not what I was told at the last officers meeting. It was tabled to be put into the 2019
This
budget.
one, this is-
Matter of fact, the person who made that move was David. Am I correct?
I don't know. I don't think I did that.
Yeah, table to go
So
into next
it
year's
was
budget.
moved to next year's budget.
okay,
Yeah. And here we are.
all right, fine.
Okay.
So let's make a separate 17.
I did
You
generator.
did.
Generator,
I'll
okay.
take that vote to remove that.
Yeah. All right.
And the one below that,
All right.
All right, one more thing.
That's-
I was asked to price out inspection and clean out of all storm drains in Century Village,
Oh.
possibly in quadrants.
He's right.
The last time, I don't have 60K the last time.
Last time.
So,
That
and I
was 5, 6
think
years ago.
$100,000
That's 5 or
over
6
4
years.
years might be the way to go, quadrant by quadrant.
Well, how is that different than the irrigation and piping repairs and cleaning?
Yeah,
Well, one is storm drains and one is
Storm
yeah. We're
I
talking
would
about
like
storm-
to increase, well, is it not all still piping? I like having, because remember, we do pool reserves, so what I'd like to do is take this number and add it to the 7 million to have one line item.
Okay.
The closest thing you've got is culvert engineering, which I assume should really say storm drain repair and replacement. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, how about this?
Or storm drain clean out repair and replacement.
Fine, you have 120K already reserved out, it's already funded.
Yes.
Assuming no disasters in 2019, the money for the scoping out of the entire village could come from that.
Right.
Then you start from zero again.
How much money did you need for 4 years?
I'm thinking 100,000 over 4 years, 25 per quadrant.
You don't want to wait 4 years.
No, you want to do as much as
You want to do it all at once, that's,
Well, let's just do it all at once, because then we can adjust the number down versus go the other way.
One of the principal causes of flooding, local flooding, is inefficient storm drainage.
Exactly.
What we found the last time we jetted it out, they were over 50% clogged with sand, right?
All right, we have 3% left in time. Okay, is there any other items we'd like to add to reserves? Okay, so what we're gonna do is at the next meeting, there'll be a handout.
You do have payment coming January.
Oh yeah, but that's going straight into reserves. I have that, that's the 18 budget. I put that money already into reserves.
Sebastian,
Yes.
why do you have fence 2-4 up there?
So, the way that we switched to do the fences is we wanted to put away $25,000, we wanted to do $100,000 the first year, or excuse me, $125,000 the first year, and then $25,000 for each additional year.
And make that clearer, we were talking about doing the fence, it goes up to community. That is taking down the fence, putting up another bit of the same thing. Now we're moving to the one that's coming in the village,
Correct.
and that's gonna run us a whole lot more. So we're gonna spend what we put away for it so far. And use that reserve to pay for the rest of it. We may need $250,000.
Are we not in aggregate talking about the perimeter of the fence?
Yes.
Can't we just say that?
Well, because not everybody understands there's been a change from this to this.
We also had fences 1 through 4 because we had different amounts for them. But then we combined fences 2 through 4, spread out the years, and then just started putting money towards it.
When I read that, I think of 4 sides to our campus. This to me means,
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is the four, but it
4
is,
perimeters.
it is the four sides.
It's
Okay.
the
The
perimeter,
trouble
not
is, we're using the
fencing.
money now for the one that we didn't bid on billing.
They're sending us
So it's not included in the audit at all, I mean, the budget at all.
And then on fences 3 and 4, we talked about, okay, were they gonna last a few more years, and then we could go back to them back on budget later.
And I think we should start increasing that too.
A little past history. You go back as far as Pat Blanc, he said the only thing holding up that fence along Haverhill are the utility poles and all the vegetation.
Oh, yes.
You know, the fence is a rotting, you know.
What they gotta do, they have to do central.
And I can't imagine what the other fences look like that go through the jungle. You know, you're gonna have to make a decision. And do you even want to use chain link?
No, but I think we ought to look at increasing what's being put into these fences.
Right.
Because we put the one off we were planning to do this year, to do the one that we
You
have.
come up with $35 a foot,
Yes.
That's what I want.
Just about.
20,000 feet of fence.
Right.
so you want to go with something more
You're gonna have to do Century Boulevard
especially in
before
sections that are
anything.
not visible.
And that's
to the
assuming
public.
chain link.
That's important, Century. That's important.
How do you
How
put a
many
chain
feet?
link fence up if you pave it?
You're a square mile.
Square mile.
Nominally 20,000.
Sebastian.
280 feet a
We're
mile.
looking at $700,000.
Yes.
Did we have money
Statute
left over
mile.
from last year's budget? Will we have any money left over that will go into someplace?
That is a hard question to answer because the answer is, or preliminarily, yes, there will be money left over.
Okay, what about the money we received from AB? We used some of it, but we didn't use all of it, did we?
Yeah, well, yes.
We did
I
use all
took
of
the
it?
entire amount that we get for September 2018 and
No,
put
no,
it into reserve.
I'm not talking about that. The first payment we got.
He's talking
Oh.
about last year we
Thank
got the
you.
payment level down. Like
Yeah.
$400 to $380.
Right, that amount.
Broadband took wipe out the need for payments as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I did use that to keep the payments in line. And so that's where there's a little bit of a question in my mind of the money that we estimate to be remaining at the end of the year. How much of that needs to go back to pay back money that should have gone to reserve to begin with?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
You follow
so-
me? Okay.
Yes, so that is a good question. I don't know the answer to that yet.
Okay.
I hope to have that by the
Okay.
third meeting.
All right.
Here's the question I have. At the very top, you have the 2018 76.57 per unit, and 2019 78.52 per unit, which is an increase of $1.95. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So the signing bonus was $450 a unit, which turns out to be $45 a year, which also turns out to be $3.75 a month. So the $3.75 a month plus the $1.95 is actually $5.60 increase. So where's my $450? Give me my $450, and then I'll pay your $2 a month more for rent. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Where's my $450?
I have it.
I hear what you're saying. I was trying to do the math in my head. You're saying the money you get back from Atlantic Broadband,
Right.
you want it
The Atlantic
split.
Broadband,
Yeah.
signing bonus turned out to be $450 per unit.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I didn't know. I
Right.
don't know what the math
Well,
is.
it
but
boils
okay.
down to $375 a month. So you're taking my $375 a month, and you're tacking on $1.95. That turns it to $560 a month. See what I'm saying? Shouldn't be
Yes.
any increase at all.
Look, last year, and we could argue this to doomsday, we gave back $377,000, and that's what you're talking about, gave back
First payment,
to
first payment.
level the
Keep the payments
payments,
low.
so they wouldn't go up.
Then we're gonna get another
As you
payment.
see, there are millions of dollars in infrastructure to be paid for. We just can't afford to give it all back, Ray. We
Otherwise, the
can't give
payments
it
go
all
up.
back. We just can't.
I
Or
don't
else
agree.
we'd have to charge you more. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Just take a look at the fact that we have a roadway, which I think you said is gonna last 5 to 6 more years.
Easily.
We're only at 500,000 saved, we need 5 million saved, we need 15 million to do the roadway. Now, that means we have to raise a considerable amount of money, raising monthly payments. And that helps cut that down some, but I give it back to you, the rates are gonna even get higher.
I'll tell you something. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I have to give Ed credit. He has chastised me for raising that 377K back. And there's good arguments that maybe we shouldn't have done that. We should have put that into reserve.
But it was voted on by everybody, it
Yes,
wasn't
I
just,
understand.
just you or I.
Well,
The
what do you
people here
expect?
voted.
If somebody gets up and says, well, I'm going to give you back a pot of money, of course they're going to vote for
Well,
it.
they did, yeah, of course. Well, I don't blame them, I did.
Yeah, and the last thing I wanted to say is, no one can convince me otherwise that, you should ever arbitrarily have, an increase or, we go through line by line and we verify at least what we think the thing's going to be. For the preliminary number, $2, $5, $20, whatever that number is, you know, I am merely a facilitator to hear what you guys want to vote for. And I know the first two meetings aren't very packed, but, you know, the third one, when we finally do the vote, you know, just like when they wanted that walkway taken out, you know, we took it out. You know, we did whatever they wanted to do ultimately as far as that constructively goes. So, and I think we have a surplus in the budget now, and depending on how the rest of the year goes, depending on how the reporter closes out, whatever money ultimately gets